Sometimes we who have been followers of Jesus for a long time fail to see what is so obvious to outsiders and to seekers. Nowhere is this phenomenon more vividly on display than in a pair of stories in today's lectionary reading from the Gospel of Mark. The disciples, who have witnessed all of Jesus' mighty acts, his healings and his miracles that are signs of his power, continue to misunderstand who he is, while the crowds of people see clearly who he is because of what he does. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Friday, January 27th, 2023. It seems to be a repeating phenomenon that no sooner do the disciples see Jesus perform a miracle than in the very next scene they seem totally taken by surprise when he performs another. In this case, Jesus has just fed a crowd of 5,000 after his attempted crossing of the lake was foiled when the crowds follow him. Now, evening has come and Jesus sends his disciples back across the lake to the town of Bethsaida while he stays put to pray. But once again, the winds create difficulties for the disciples. Though apparently not as bad as when the winds kicked up waves that started to swamp their boat, they are strong enough to keep the disciples from making much headway as they try to row toward their destination. That's where we pick up the story. When evening came, the boat was out on the sea, and he was alone on the land. When he saw that they were straining at the oars against an adverse wind, he came towards them early in the morning, walking on the sea. He intended to pass them by, but when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost and cried out, for they all saw him and were terrified. But immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I, do not be afraid." Then he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased. And they were utterly astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. When they had crossed over, they came to land at Gennesaret and moored the boat. When they got out of the boat, people at once recognized him and rushed about that whole region and began to bring the sick on mats to wherever they heard he was. And wherever he went, into villages or cities or farms, they laid the sick in marketplaces and begged him that they might touch even the fringe of his cloak. And all who touched it were healed. The strangest thing about this story is not that Jesus walked on water. No, the strangest thing is that Jesus intended to pass the disciples by, apparently without stopping. I assume it was simply meant to be a sign for them. Instead, it caused them to fear. Mark doesn't say they were afraid because of the wind, but rather because of Jesus' appearance, believing him to be a ghost. And once again, Jesus has to calm their fears and reassure them that it is he, and that in his presence they're safe. You'd think that with their history together, he wouldn't have to reassure them like this, but he does. Contrast that with the crowd that gathered when they made landfall. They rushed to him and clamored for his attention. You see, they were focused on one thing, that Jesus was able to bring healing to them and to their sick family members. Business writer Jim Collins calls this the hedgehog principle. In a very different context, the context of seeking success in business, he contrasts those businesses that try to do many things and find their efforts foiled with those businesses that adopt the hedgehog principle. Based on an ancient Greek parable about a fox and a hedgehog, Collins says essentially, a fox knows many things and pursues them all. A hedgehog knows one big thing. In the same way, the disciples have seen many things in their lives with Jesus. They have heard him teach. They've seen him interact with many people. They've seen him confront hostile religious authorities, heal the sick, cast out demons, calm stormy seas, feed multitudes. And they're trying their best to measure up to his expectations of them. It's a lot. The crowd, on the other hand, know one thing. that Jesus can heal them. They are laser focused on that one thing, and with that laser-like focus comes a real clarity about who He is. He is the Lord over all things, including sickness and ill health. They know that simply touching the hem of His cloak can bring healing and strength. It seems to me that when we come to Jesus with our needs, we see who He is with penetrating clarity. It is good to study His teachings, to sift through the Scriptures, to gain understanding, but somehow, when we come to Him with our needs, we understand in a deep way exactly who He is. He is the Lord of all things, who has the power to heal our souls. Tomorrow, the meaning of true purity. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.